Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Juan the Yarn Addict and I'd like to welcome you to another session of Whipping It with Juan. If you're new here, hi, hello, and welcome. I'm super happy that you found me. If you're not new here and you're returning, well, welcome back. I'm super grateful and thankful you have returned. In these sessions of Whipping It with Juan, I become your crochet buddy for about 45 minutes to an hour. I sit back, I work on my whips while I talk to you about all the things. So if that is of interest to you, please sit back and enjoy the video. Before we get started, please remember to hit the like button, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, and then of course share the video. I would definitely appreciate the support. So as I always ask, what is on the hook for this session of Whipping It with Juan? I have 4 projects here. I'm going to ultimately choose one, but I'm just going to show off the 4 that I'm thinking might be choices for this session. So we're going to start off with a project that I had in timeout for a while, and then I lost it. And then I recently found it. So here we have my vintage Spectrum corner-to-corner blanket. I'm working this up with a 6mm US letter J prim hook, and the story behind this is I have another project in the other room. I am using discontinued vintage variegated yarn to create hexagons, and with all of the leftover yarns, I am collecting it, putting it into a bag like this, and I'm putting this yarn in the bag into this project right here, and this is where I'm at. Now, we were a little further with this project, but somewhere in the middle here, I had Red Heart Super Saver Mexicana yarn. It was an old skein. And I thought to myself, well, one, it stuck out like a sore thumb. And secondly, it's not discontinued. And so I didn't feel right about keeping it in there. So I frogged everything back to the beginning and started it from the beginning and made sure to not include that colorway. So here we are. I folded it up, put it into a basket, and completely forgot about it. And as I was cleaning, I found it and I said, yay, we're gonna put this back on the hook. So here we are. That's the first one. The second one here is my Timber Trails blanket. I made this swatch for a tutorial here on the channel. I do have a tutorial for the Timber Trails blanket for both left and right-handed crocheters. And this is the swatch. And I told myself at some point we need to finish this, because I really love the colorway here. And this is what it looks like, Timber Trails. All right, and the yarn is Line Brand Mandala in the colorway Satyrs. And this is a bonus bundle. It's 10.5 ounces at 300 grams. It's 1,181 yards, and they are suggesting a 5mm crochet hook. It's a light DK weight yarn. And I am using the recommended hook size for the yarn, which is a 5mm dots hook. And I am keeping it in my whip basket. So that's the second one. I have a feeling that I'm going to need multiple cakes. Now, the cake for the most part still looks quite full. But given the size that I have right now, I may need a second cake, possibly a third one, which I do have in stash, so I'm not too worried. So that's the second one. The third one that I have here is my Sweet Marshmallow Kiss. This has been sitting in timeout for quite some time. I've been keeping it under the table, telling myself, whenever you have a minute, work on some stitches. So here it is. This is what I have so far. And this pattern here was brought to us by Trisha. Her channel name is Mama Swift. And I absolutely love the texture of this blanket. Super nice. It's a bunch of trebles in clusters. Super nice. And I am using recycled yarn. So last year I went to Goodwill. I purchased a whole cart full of blankets and I rescued them. I frogged them all back, including one king size blanket that was mostly white. And I have several cakes of this white yarn, and I'm using that yarn for this project. Once again, I am using a 6mm US letter J prim hook. And so that's the third one. And last but not least, we have the birthday blanket. So if you've heard me say it once, you're going to hear me say it again. So this is my birthday blanket, and this blanket turned 1 as of July 1st. I began this project July 1st, 2024. I've had it in timeout several times now. And this yarn here is Red Heart with Love in the colorway Fruit Punch. It's right here. Beautiful, beautiful yarn. They do suggest a 6.5mm crochet hook, which is what I'm using. I'm using a Furls Odyssey 6.5mm hook, which is right here. And this began with a community effort. Friends, family, viewers, subscribers, all dug through their stash to find this yarn because it is my absolute favorite variegated yarn. I love this. I love this yarn. So I wound up with a whole bag full, and I'm using all of the yarn into this project, and I'm going to continue going until I run out of yarn. So I'm complementing that yarn with Loops and Threads Soft Classic in the colorway Charcoal, just to break up the monotony of all of the stitches, and I think it's doing such a great job. I'm loving it. So that's the fourth one. Now, before I decide, I have my coffee, letter J. It's a plain mug today, nothing too fancy, but as I always say, it's what's on the inside that matters most. Dunkin' Donuts hazelnut coffee with caramel macchiato creamer. It's the best. Okay, so I think what I want to do is work on my vintage Spectrum corner to corner. I haven't touched this in such a long time. And I'll give you another close-up of this. All the colors from yesteryear, super, super nice. From afar, if you gaze at it long enough, it turns into like a painting of sorts. I don't know. I just let my imagination take me away. I don't know. Anyway, I have some yarn here, discontinued vintage variegated yarn. And while some of it makes absolutely no sense, you know, to just be put on here because of how bright some of the colors are, I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, that's kind of the charm of the blanket. No rhyme, no reason. Let's just get it on here. And I really, really enjoy these little balls of yarn because it doesn't offer much, but it offers like a break in monotony of the colors. So I do really like that. And I think, like, I'm trying to make sense with what to put on next, but the choices are slim at the moment. I don't think this is discontinued. I'm gonna have to look into this. I think that's why it's in the bag. I wasn't sure. I'm gonna do my homework on this first and not put it in, because I don't want any more frog sessions, if I can help it. I do have this. Look at that. I think we're gonna put this on next. Yes. Okay, so I don't know the name of this, but it feels very, very vintage. We have like a burnt orange, we have a medium brown and white. Super nice. Okay. So it has been decided we're going to go ahead and put this on, and I'm not doing any sort of fancy joins. I'm literally just knotting it up and going with the flow of the situation. And the one thing I am doing though is I am sewing my ends in like after the session. So like I'll do several rows, stop, sew in my ends, and then continue going. And since I haven't shown this on the channel in such a long time, I am going to put a placemaker where I leave off so I can track my progress. Let me just get the hook back on here. Let me slide back into position. The coffee's not piping hot, but it's not cold either. I really like that. I like the in-between, especially on hot summer days. Yeah. So anyway, this yarn that I'm currently working with, like I'm about to finish, I think it's Blue Shades. I think it's Blue Shades, Red Heart Super Saver, Blue Shades. This next colorway, like I said, I don't know the name of the colorway, but the feel of it is very, very vintage. It's got that like rough feel, but not like the Red Heart rough. It's a different kind. It's hard to explain. But I'm super happy to be able to put it into this blanket, and I really think that the orange will look really nice backed up with this blue. It just likes to travel all over the place. I don't know. So as far as the hexagon project that I have in timeout in the other room, I ultimately decided that I'm not going to border each hexagon with black. I think what I'm going to do is just pair them together and mend them together with the black yarn instead, just because there are a lot of hexagons, and yeah, I just want to be able to get that project going. You know, it's been such a long work in progress, and I know that it's going to look great regardless, because I've done projects with squares where I framed them in black, and I've also done them where I did not frame them in black, and they both came out really, really nice. So I'm going to be satisfied either way I go. Now, if it was a game changer in terms of like how it actually looked, then I probably would say to myself, you know what, Juan, just bite the bullet on this one, frame everything in black, and then put it together. But it's not necessary, because these yarns are just super, super nice. And some of them I've never seen before, which I think is absolutely amazing. So yeah, I like it. Now with these little balls, they don't last a long time, which is super nice. The other part of it is in terms of planning. So like if you have, like the colorway that I have on right now, you can kind of see how the orange and the brown is falling right in line with that blue. Super nice. You know, you have to kind of forecast and be like, I'm only going to have like 2 rows of this. So what color could I add to it to highlight or accentuate the colors that, you know, you just put on? And sometimes you really don't have an answer to that question, but if you have the yarn sitting in a bag and you kind of know what you want to use next, well, let's do that. So let me go ahead and put that hook back on. So ultimately, I think we have just a handful of these balls left, and then I have to get back onto that project with the hexagons, because I'm trying not to use the discontinued vintage variegated yarn until I've already made those hexagons, because if I put it into this project and then I don't have enough to finish a hexagon, it kind of defeats the purpose. So I'm trying to keep in mind, you know, although it's in timeout, I do need to get that going so that this can continue going, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So anyway, how are all of you guys? I hope you guys are well. What do you guys have on the hook? Tell me all the things in the comments. I do read them, by the way. I'm very curious to know like how many WIPs you're working on. Were you able to finish any projects this week since the last time we hung out? I don't know. I just feel like every time I put work on the hook, there's just something else. There's something else and something else and something else. Oh, it's like, I mean, I love creating WIPs just as much as I like finishing them, but as of late, I'm just super inclined to like get things finished and not start anything new until the pile dwindles down, you know? And I've asked this many, many times, how many WIPs are enough WIPs, you know? And the true answer to that is it varies from person to person. I personally know people who have over 50 WIPs. I also know people who have no WIPs. They start one project, they finish one project, and that is it. That's definitely not me, and I know that's not the vast majority of everyone who watches. And that's okay, you know? I said before on several occasions that as long as you have a system in place, it's perfectly okay to have a lot of WIPs. As long as you know what is what and you have a way of organization. If they're just all over the place and they're not organized, well, yeah, then maybe we need to revisit the whole thing. But if you have them in their own containers and you know where everything is, it's perfectly okay. At least I think so. Just like having yarn, you know, if you have a large yarn hoard, as long as you know where everything is, you're fine. You know, if there's a pile of yarn in the corner, fine. As long as you know what's there and you're okay with it being there, then it should be fine. Now, listen, I am not one to talk. I have shown my yarn room. It is in a complete disarray. I am working on it little by little every single day. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I did slow down on my yarn purchases. So I have not stopped. I'm still buying yarn, but I'm not buying loads and loads and loads of yarn because I am trying to organize and figure out exactly what it is that I have. You know, I recently did mystery boxes to help de-stash, which it definitely did help, but I feel like now that I have a little bit of space, I'm spreading everything out. I'm trying to look at what I have and then decide what else may I need for specific projects to like start and finish them, you know? So, yes. I do call myself a yarn collector, borderline hoarder. And, you know, I believe that as long as, one, you're okay with it, two, you know what you have, and three, you have a plan for it, it should be fine. And the number one response that I have for my yarn stash is it's my retirement. So when I officially retire, I will turn to my yarn stash and be like, okay, it's time to really, you know, crank it up. Let's get creative and let's make all the things, you know? As if I'm not already doing that. I mean, I'm just saying, when you're retired, you have a little bit of extra free time. You have some free time to, you know, go all sorts of creative, you know, and I'm very excited for when that day comes. But right now, I look at my yarn stash and I'm like, it's okay that you have a lot, Juan. A lot of this is for your retirement because I've mentioned this before on many occasions. The prices that we are currently paying for yarn will not be the prices 20 years from now. Guaranteed. I mean, I think back in the day when I first started crocheting, a skein of Red Heart Super Saver was, I believe, like $1.75 or $1.99. And now the average price of a 7-ounce skein of Red Heart Super Saver is almost $5, if not more, depending on where you buy it. 20 years from now, that same skein might just be $10 or more. So if there's a way for me to purchase it now and store it appropriately, I'm totally on board with that. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to pay those prices 20 years from now if I have it right here in my stash. So as long as I take really good care of it, it should hold up pretty well because my mom and I both have makes from the 50s and the 60s from my grandmother made with Red Heart Super Saver, and they look amazing. So they do last. So yeah, I'm perfectly okay with storing the yarn. Now, in terms of yarn organization, everybody has their own way of doing it. For me, it's almost like I have to make a mess first. I have to make the complete mess and then dig through that mess and just organize it from A to Z. I think that's the only way that it's going to make sense for me in my head. I've tried doing it other ways, and I find myself always going back to the way that I'm always comfortable doing it. So I feel yarn organization is just different from person to person. And listen, we can watch all the YouTube videos all day long about how to organize our yarn. But at the end of the day, we're all going to ultimately do whatever most benefits and suits us, you know? And by the way, there are some amazing yarn organization videos out there on the YouTube streets. All you have to do is type yarn organization in the search bar and all the things pop up. And yeah, so I've watched a lot of them and I've tried a lot of the things that I've seen, but I ultimately go back to the way I do it. And in that yarn room, I took everything from the one side of the room out. I just pulled it all out into the hallway. And I created some open space. And then shelf by shelf, I took everything off and just reorganized it. And as I began organizing the shelves, if I saw like yarn on another shelf, I went and pulled that and just added it to what I currently had in my hands, you know. But that was a while ago, and I gotta roll the sleeves up and do that again, because I purchased a lot of yarn since I last done that, and I'm perfectly okay with that. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, with future yarn purchases, what should I concentrate on? You know, should I concentrate on just new to me yarns? Should I concentrate on obscure yarns that like I know about but I've never tried? Maybe a mix of all of it. I've actually held back from purchasing restocks. So if I used a skein of yarn, this was before, if I used a colorway of yarn for a project, I always went to the store to buy a replacement skein. And for the last 2 months, maybe a little longer, but for sure 2 months, I have not purchased any restocks. So this wall here, I'm starting to see the back of the cubby. And then in the other room, I have empty holes as well. I'm actually surprised with how much I actually go through. I go through quite a bit of yarn. And not purchasing yarn like restocks, it's really showing me how much I actually go through. It's insane. I think what I'm going to do starting August 1st is hold on to the ball bands of the yarn that I finish, and I'm going to just count those ball bands to see how many skeins I go through in a month. But before I do that, I'm going to guess a number and just see. And, you know, before I save the very first one. But yeah, I'm super excited about just being able to reorganize my yarn. And you know, another thing about yarn organization, you find things that you didn't know you had. I had no idea that I had discontinued yarn from like 10, 15 years ago in my stash that I purchased. I was so shocked about that. I'm like, I remember buying this. Is this discontinued? I went and looked it up and I'm like, it's discontinued. Wow. Even with the Big Twist holiday yarns, just within the last few years, you know, they brought out a whole line of yarn and then just as fast as it came in, it went out. And, you know, I'm very fortunate to have a few of each of those colorways. So collecting yarn has its perks, you know. Anyway, I think what I'm going to do, like, this ball is a lot bigger than I thought. This is where I'm at so far. I really, really like the way that looks. That's super nice. I'm looking at the other projects and I'm like, huh, I need to get that on the hook too. And that's the thing that I go through here when I have all of my work in front of me. I'm like, how much time do I spend on this one project before I put this one down and get on the other one? Because, you know, you have all these whips and you want them all done, but you only have 2 hands. Oh, I wish we had more than a set of hands. That would be super, super nice. And you know what? Something tells me that if I had an extra set of hands to help me get through the whips, I'd have more whips. So maybe no. Maybe let's not do that. I don't know. Anyway, I mentioned this before too. I mentioned a lot of things before, by the way, and I just realized that I keep saying that. I moved this chair away from the studio months and months and months ago because of the arms. And for me, I like to crochet with my arms at my sides, and the chairs that I have here, all but one have arms. And the arms are nice, except for when I'm crocheting. It's not comfortable. I like being like this and not like this. We all have our thing, you know? Anyway. So I want to say probably another 50 yards of this yarn. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to see it all the way through to the end of this ball. I'm trying not to cut it too short, but like I said, I mean, I don't really have other colorways. So this one right here, super, super nice. It's green, it's purple. That's gorgeous. I love that. So I had some sent to me in Happy Mail a little while ago, but this is something that I've had in stash for quite a while. And I thought about putting it in here, but where? You know? Maybe no rhyme, no reason. Maybe I need to stick to my guns with that one. Just literally be like, pull out of the bag, just put it on and see what happens. As long as it's a discontinued vintage variegated yarn, you know? I think that's probably the best course of action. Anyway, I'm at the end of the row here. Super, super nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And by the way, I know it's kind of late for me to say this, but I do have a tutorial on my channel for the corner to corner. So it's an older video, and it is one that I really, really want to redo, because nowadays my tutorials are done a little differently than I used to do them. But so many people tell me, Juan, don't touch that one. So I don't, but just know that is one that I would really like to redo. But anyway, I do have that on my channel if you're interested in learning how to do the corner to corner. Once you learn how to do it, it's super, super easy. You can do it with any weight of yarn, any color, you know. You can even change your hook size. You don't even have to follow the recommended hook size for the yarn that it suggests. Yeah. Now, for the most part, Red Heart Super Saver yarns do suggest a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, between a 5 and a 5.5. I'm using a 6, and I love this for me. I actually know people who hook down with Red Heart Super Saver for a corner to corner. They go down to a 5 or a 4.5, just because they like it really, really tight. That's not me. I like it not tight, but not too loose, right in the middle. So I always find that a 6 millimeter US letter J hook is like that sweet spot for me. And more specifically, Prim. And I know, before anyone says it, it is a plastic, like resin hook, but for me, I like how long the hook is, and I like the hold of it. It's not perfectly round. You do have a flat edge on this, and it's really, really nice for me. I know there are many people who have tried the Prim hooks and it doesn't really pan out well for them. And that's okay, because I think that's the case for everybody. Like, we all have the hooks that we go to first. We also all have hooks that we just, you know, turn our eyes to, because we can crochet with them, but they're not like at the top of our list. Yeah, I have those too. So, yeah, I'm perfectly okay with it. Love the Prim hook letter J. So we're making progress on this little ball. I have a feeling we may, you know what, now that I think about it, I don't really, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, some of these colorways I've done 4 rows. So I'm only on the second one, so we'll see. super happy to be able to get this back on the hook, because last year I did a quarter panel blanket done with scrap yarn, corner to corner. We did 4 panels, we joined them together. It was a huge like diamond. I've shown it many times. I've even done Whipping It with Juan sessions last year with it. And I think that project there is what inspired this, except we're not going to do quarter panels. We're literally just going to put the colors on and just get it together, you know? So, yeah. Now, my other whip that I have here, my Timber Trails, believe it or not, it was one of those projects that I rolled out onto my channel that I did not think would literally do anything. I put it on there as an option for people to crochet like a donation blanket. And it became so much more than just one of those tutorials for donation blankets. Lots of people have been making them, and I may actually use the Timber Trails pattern with one of my favorite yarns, because I haven't done it yet and I'm very interested in doing it, but I'm trying to get one of these whips completed before I do that. So I would like to use Premier Puzzle Cotton in Timber Trails. Yeah, I would like to do that. Either Premier Puzzle Cotton or just Premier Puzzle. But I'm really looking at the Puzzle Cotton because of the blend of acrylic and cotton. So I would just imagine it has a different feel than the original Premier Puzzle. But, you know, if I don't have enough, then I'm just going to look at what stash I have, or what I have in stash, and then go with that. So there, I know for sure I have Premier Puzzle Kickball, enough for a decent sized blanket of Timber Trails. I also have Leapfrog, beautiful green and purple. I may go with that one because I have complementary solids. I purchased solids with that as well. So again, I'm just trying to think about ways to use up my stash, and I think using that for this is great. Timber Trails. Yep. But first, I mean, I don't know. I think first what I need to do is finish this one. I need to finish this one, but it's a 5mm hook. It's going to take me a while, but I guess it'll be worth it. It's a light blanket, you know? Anyway. The green tones yarn that I'm seeing here in the bag was one that I really wanted to put on earlier on because of how small the ball is. I may wait because I think I have a cake or two in the other room that I could add to it. So green tones, it's gorgeous. It's got like patty green, like a lime green. It's got all the greens. It's really, really nice. I don't see any hunter green though, but I would imagine it would look really, really nice in this blanket. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We're painting the picture with the hook. So, yeah. And my shirt is one of my favorites. I know this is way off topic, but look. So, I don't have a yarn problem. It's one of my go-to shirts. I really do love this shirt. I may get another one in another color. I have this in black only. But it's so true. Like, I will literally go to the store with this, and every now and then people ask me, like, are those skeins of yarn? And I'm like, yes. And no, I don't have a yarn problem. And they're like, okay, nice. Oh. Now, I remember at one time I would never go out in public with my yarn shirts, and now I totally do all the time. Yes, I do. Sunglasses, shorts, sandals, grocery store, running errands. Yep. Now, I don't do it all the time, but if I forget to take my shirt off and change it with a plain one, I don't mind showing off my t-shirts. I'm totally okay with it. So yeah, super, super nice. So we're still going with the same colorway. I almost feel inclined to pick up another whip. I'm trying to stick with one, but they're all just staring at me like, one, please work with me too. You know? I think what I'm going to do is finish this row, and then I'm going to jump over to Sweet Marshmallow Kiss. I only have a few stitches left for this row. And of course, I will work more on this off camera. So when I do the podcast to show updates on my whips, you'll see that I've gotten a little further than just this. And I would imagine, as is the case with most corner to corners, as this grows, it's going to take longer, you know, to get from one side to the other, which is fine. I always look at it like this. As long as you're putting one stitch on at a time, it's one less stitch that you have to worry about before getting finished. You know, you'll eventually finish. So yeah, I made a king size blanket corner to corner with a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, prim. Yep, it took me 3 months, and it was the only project that I had on the hook at the time. This was 2022. And yeah, 3 months, every day after work, for hours, I would just sit there and crochet just to get it done. And I would always ask myself, how many cakes am I going to get done this week, you know? But yeah, it took 6 of the big cakes, the Karen big cakes, 6 of those, and 3 Karen 1 pound of these 1 pounders here. Yep, and the colorway is Toffee Brickle. All right, so I'm at the end of the row. Here we are. Very, very nice. All right. And this is where we're at. We still have a little bit left. So we're going to sit that there. We're going to jump to Sweet Marshmallow Kiss. I'm going on a field trip. I'm grabbing the yarn. Here it is, my recycled yarn, and same hook, 6 millimeter US letter J. I just need to find my stitch. Perfect, okay. So this blanket here features triple crochet clusters and front post double crochets. Now the pattern you can get from Mama Swift. You can email her. It's mamaswift3@gmail.com, and you can just request the pattern. And again, it's called Sweet Marshmallow Kiss. Super, super nice. And 1, 2, and 3. And before I forget, Creations by Jax. She did the tutorial for this on her channel, Creations by Jax. Okay. So there is that. Now, there's a whole story about this. I was not a fan of trebles, partly because I would always forget to wrap around twice like I just did. And the other issue I have with these trebles is pulling through. Pull through 2, pull through 2. Now, the first 2 is never the issue. It's the second 2 that I always had issues with. And I reached out to Trisha, and I've said this story many times. I said, hey, these trebles are giving me issues. And she responded with, practice, practice, practice. Just keep doing them. And I did. And I made many projects with treble crochets. And I do have to agree with her in that if you practice, you will get better at it. My issue now is I can do them, but it's very inconsistent. And I know I just have to continue doing the trebles. I feel like the more I do them and the more often I do them, the more comfortable I will be with them. Of course, I can do treble crochets, but with the cadence on how I crochet, it slows me down. That second pull through. And it's literally that part only. I can literally do, you know, say it's this, I go in, draw the loop, go through two, and it's very inconsistent. Like sometimes when I go in to pull the second time, it's just not sitting right. Yeah, anyway. I've tried different hooks. I thought it was like, you know, maybe it was a hook, but ultimately it's a me issue. It's me. So anyway, I'm not going to give up on these trebles. It's taking me a very long time to do this blanket just because of these trebles. I would imagine that if I had everything else off the hook and this was my only one, I would still be like where I'm at right now. It's that second pull through. I don't know. Anyway, I'm doing it all in one color because I've never completed a blanket with these stitches all in one color. Oof. I really have to concentrate with this one. Which I don't mind the concentration aspect of it. It's literally that second pull through, like I said. And then after a while, like once I've had enough with that second pull through, I'll put it down. But I'm not going to give up on it. I always say that too. We're just going to keep doing the things. And then eventually I'll be done. I love the texture. It's super, super nice. And it's very squishy and stretchy. Very nice. And once I wash this and put it in the dryer, once I apply heat to this, I think the kinks will work itself out. The kinks are still in the yarn from how, you know, I frogged it and everything. So yeah, very excited to see what this looks like without the kinks. I'm gonna try and get to the end of this row here and hopefully not shelf this for a long time, because I feel like, you know, like I said, if I continue to work on this a little by little at a time, I'll be able to get this done and finally put this to bed. Now, this is for Camp Boggy Creek. This is a donation blanket for children in Eustis, Florida. And I believe this blanket is perfect for those who love the texture. You know, it's great for that purpose. So, other than the fact that it's very squishy and soft too. So, all right. Trying to get there, guys. I'm trying to get to the end of that row. But at least I'm working on it, right? I mean, it could stay under the table until, you know, I ultimately decide, let's frog it again. But I'm not going to do that. I think the kids would absolutely love this. I'm trying to think, well, maybe like once I'm finished and it's 40 by 40, do I put like a colorful border on it? Do I just keep it all the way white? You know? I'm not sure. Like if I introduce a color all the way at the end, would it even make sense? Probably not. I don't know. At least I'm trying to think of like different options here, because I mean, maybe there are children out there that like all white blankets, but also part of me thinks that, you know, if I'm a kid and I'm in this, you know, cabin with all these other kids looking at their blankets, how does mine stack up against theirs? Like, mine is all one color. Would I like that? Or would I like a white blanket with this awesome color on the end? You know, like this. What if I put this color on the border? You know, like shells or something. I mean, to me, as a kid, that would excite me. So, I mean, I don't know. Then again, I don't know what kids think nowadays. I mean, I have no idea. We're almost at the corner. And then I think what we're going to do is call it for this session once I get there. I tried to stick to one project for this session. It's not possible with the amount of WIPs that I have. And it's not that like I don't want to do the things, it's that I do want to do them all. I want to do all of them. If I had an extra set of hands, like I said, I'd be working on more than one WIP at a time. But I'll feel better knowing that I made some progress on more than one WIP. So that's super, super nice. Let me go ahead and get that around there. I'm curious to know how many of you guys have tried this blanket. And if you haven't tried it, would you consider trying it? Very curious to know that, because this is an awesome design. Listen, if you like trebles, this will be your jam. Trebles and front post double crochets, for sure. And because of this blanket, it has inspired many projects that have the treble in it. So, thank you, Trisha. All right, so there's that. We're at the corner, front post double. Okay, I'm gonna put the bunny ear in there. And so that is where we are at for there. Okay, super nice. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me for this session of WIP'n It with Juan. I did mention in recent lives that I will be doing more of these WIP'n It with Juan sessions just to kind of move the needle on all of my WIPs. So be sure to stay tuned for the next session of WIP'n It with Juan. That is all I have for this session. Please remember to do all the things. Hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing, and then of course share the video. As I always say, I would definitely appreciate the support. So that is all from me for now, and until the next one, take care, friends. Bye.